Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast. I'm Tights, as always, joined by Uncommon Fossil.
Hello, and having some more throat problems. I think my sinus infection is back. So anyway, hopefully,
Yeah, and it's allergy season, so I'm not feeling 100% either. I was actually feeling really terrible yesterday, but I'm feeling like fine today, so hopefully that stays. But today we're talking about supporter cards. Supporter cards are arguably the backbone of the Pokemon TCG. It's probably obviously Pokemon are really important. Supporters are important, and items are important. But supporters are, you can play one per turn. They can really define a deck. And today we're talking about the tier two supporters. There's the best supporters in the game. If you're watching it, I have them pulled up right now. We determined these to be the 12 best. We're not really going to be talking about them. I'll just read them quickly. Boss's Orders, Iono, Professor's Research, Crispin, Professor Saw's Vitality, Professor Tur's Scenario, Judge, Arvin, and Penny. We said were the top 9. That's kind of what we thought. And Carmen, Breyer, and Cypher Maniac's Codebreaking we also included in there. So we will not be talking about those supporters today. I mean, we might mention them. I'm sure we will for some of these cards, but these are like the top tier. Some are better than others in this, but they are what we consider the best supporters. I actually don't think. I mean, I don't play Briar that much, but it's played a bunch and is theoretically strong, and also really different than the other ones we'll talk about, I imagine.
right. So the idea is we're going to talk about the tier two supporters. So in theory, these would be the S tier and tier one supporters. Some of these ones that we've banned are tier two supporters, I imagine, but these are ones that we would choose and be high up on our list. So we're trying to get to the supporters that are useful, but we don't, but don't really see much play. So therefore, obviously, boss in research, Iono are crazy good. A card like Briar, Carmen, they're a little more situational, right? So they might not, But anyway, we banned those cards, and we're going to have a list of 10 we've put together. We haven't seen each other's lists at this point. So we each have a top 10 ranked 1 to 10. So should we open up each other's lists and see what we're working with today?
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm gonna open up your list, and okay, so this is different than mine, unsurprisingly. So I do have some honorable mentions. I have two. Well, I don't know. They're kind of different. So I'll talk about the one now. This one is, I assume, so it's not on your list I see here.
Okay.
But I don't know do you have some like other ones that you're considering that you didn't include or not?
I have 6 that I didn't include. I'm trying to take a look at what you have that don't. So that aren't on my list. So you want to mention yours, and I'll quickly mention mine.
Yeah, so I'll mention this one first. This one's actually arguably really good. It's Alicia's Appeal. This is a supporter card that is, it says you gust up a basic and then it's now confused. This card is almost as good as Boss's Orders, except it's like worse than Boss's Orders. And you're not playing for Boss's Orders. I mean, maybe you could. You're certainly, I can't really ever imagine playing more than that. So Alicia's Appeal doesn't really have a spot in really any deck, but it's not a bad card. Notably in Singleton Showdown, it was like insanely good. And so it's like almost as good as Boss's Orders. So it's actually it's just really strong, but theoretically. But again, it's worse than Boss's Orders almost like generally. So people don't play it.
Right now, the wall decks are, they're made a bit of a comeback, so it could go in that type of deck, I would imagine. So I don't know that sees a lot of play. So, do you have any others to mention? An honorable mention?
Yeah, I have another one. This one is definitely one in contention. This also is not on your list. It is the supporter Morty's Conviction. This one's played some. I've played it some. It's probably one that I've actually played the most, not the most, but like a bunch compared to some of these others. And it says you discard a card from your hand, and then you draw one card for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's played a decent amount. It's played more in Japan as well, I think. And it's fine. It's I mean, it's not great though. I just think it's a little weak, but and it's also not super interesting. But it's all right, and it is played some, so that's kind of why I have it as an honorable mention.
Yeah, no, that one wasn't on my consideration, but it is a good one. A lot of people would say it belongs on this our tier two list. It was in like the winning deck list at the Atlanta Regional just happened, so it sees play. It's a decent draw. I don't love it either. It was just kind of where you're at with that.
Yeah.
Anything else for you to mention?
Oh no, those are my. Normally I have a lot of honorable mentions, but no, I just had two today. And the one was like special with Lisa's Appeal, which is like it's not really a regular honorable mention. As I said, it's like kind of strong, but also there's not really a reason to play it except for like really niche things.
Right. I'll just mention a couple my mine quickly. You comment to the extent you want. Tulip, which if you're playing certain, it's like for psychic decks, it can be useful in some psychic decks, but it's only for psychic decks, and most psychic decks don't necessarily want it either. So, I don't, I've played it and enjoyed it, but I don't think it belongs on the list. I assume you agree with that as well.
Yeah, specifically because Gardevoir's good. It's a good psychic deck. But it's good within Zadu. I mean, it's not like broken in Zadu, but it's pretty solid in Zadu. But Zadu's certainly not that strong and kind of niche.
Yeah, I did not include Youngster on the list. I play it in some decks. I imagine like with GLCs coming out, I might put it in that. So that's part of this too. Like with singleton format, we're playing more of these cards, and even the twin battles, but especially the singleton format, playing some of these cards. I'm pretty sure I would put Youngster in a singleton format deck. Shuffle your hand in your deck, draw five. Cynthia that did it for six was a good supporter. I think obviously it's not as good, but it's okay. And for decks that don't want to discard things, a card like Youngster, I think it have a place.
Yeah. Youngsters, it's okay. I might have played it. I'm not sure. And there have been variations of this that are shuffle draw five in the past with Shauna.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
zero.
something else.
Okay, so 06 machinations. Your opponent discards cards from hand until they have three. If it was before rotation, this would have been on my list, right? Because with like Snorlax and such, it saw a fair amount of play, right? But now post
Yeah.
rotation, I don't think it has a lot of value.
Yeah, I think it's interesting compared to like some of the ones we have, or no, sorry, compared to all of the ones we have, they all like help you. This one doesn't, so it's like very different. I think it was also not super good pre-rotation. I think it had niche use cases that were like fine, but generally was bad even in the decks it was played in. I played it occasionally, and again, occasionally got some value out of it, but I think it was even overrated when it was played. But yeah, I mean, it's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it more than you back when we were playing it, but yeah. So Clavel, there's one of the things is, and I'll mention this now. It fits in later. Pokemon Search supporters are I think good, particularly because Badoo's in the game, right? And I've been playing a lot of games, unfortunately, where I've been getting Badoo locked, and it's not a lot of fun. So supporters that search for Pokemon usually aren't good because items do that very well for the most part. But Clavel, search for three basics with 120 HP or less, put them in your hand. It's okay, is what I'd say. But there's better things out there.
Yeah. It's not amazing. It does get them to your hand, which is kind of nice. This is one that I think I played. It might have been GLC. It might have been standard. I really don't know. I feel like I played this though. Oh no, I think it was in random battles when I did that. I might have played that this card. But anyways, yeah, it's not like terrible. We've seen supporters like this in the past that have been good. Notably, if people are wondering why, there's the card Bridget, which was similar to this, that was good, but they changed the turn one supporter rule. This is quite a while ago by now, but they did that, and that made supporters specifically in this mold worse. Actually, a bit of a tangent, but there is the Team Rockets. Oh, I just searched Team Rocket, and obviously there's a lot of those cards, but there's like one of the supporters, and it lets you it gets a three basic Team Rockets Pokemon, but you can play a turn one going first, and can also search it out, which is will probably allow it to be better. And also the Badoo thing, it's like kind of hard to find certain supporters, especially like you don't want to really be playing for this, even if you wanted to play it, and then you can't find it. You can kind of help find it with Pokegear, but if you're item lock, you can't do that. So Clavel is interesting, but comes up short in unfortunately most areas.
Yeah, and the 120 HP is a really odd number. I gotta say. So basically, it's letting you get any single prize basic Pokemon, right, in no rule
Yeah.
box. But it's lower than that, right? If you're putting a limit. So, but anyway, that is what it is. And the last, I'll mention them two together because poison's a thing, donk decks are a thing, unfortunate for
Oh,
good or for bad. So Janine's Secret Art and
oh, that's
Atticus,
okay.
which I think, especially if you're playing, for Gene Secret Art, choose two of your darkness Pokemon, attach a basic energy card from your deck, so that's where you want to get it from. And then if you do that to your active, if one of them's your active Pokemon, it's now poisoned, right? So it's energy acceleration, dark patch is gone. So the energy acceleration is good, plus the poison. Some decks want that, right? So for yourself, at times. So it's an interesting card there. And the other, because things are getting poisoned, is Atticus. You can only use it if your opponent's active Pokemon's poison. Of course, Donk decks are doing that all the time now. You shuffle your hand in your deck, draw 7, right? Like I said, Youngster's not good enough at 5. Cynthia at 6, I think, would probably see some play now. But if it was just, if Atticus didn't have the poison thing, shuffle your hand in your deck, draw 7, it would see a fair amount of play, right? So if you're playing a deck with poison, Atticus, is well worth considering, I think.
Yeah, I think Atticus is interesting. Again, I don't know if I played it. I definitely was interested in it when it first came out. And so it's kind of cool. Oh yeah, I think I did play it in cloth at one point and probably cut it. So it's kind of interesting. I think Janine's is pretty solid. It is a type specific card. That's why I don't have it here. I think all of the cards on both of our lists are like can be played in any type of deck. So that's something that makes them better. But it's a solid supporter. Definitely has a place in some decks. And it's kind of good. It's definitely weaker because it kind of now post rotation because Dark Patch it has similarities, right? They're both Darkness Energy Acceleration to Darkness Pokemon, and they kind of stack together decently nicely. But now that you don't have it, it is weaker, and it was meant to pair with the Loyal 3, like the Monkey Dory EX and the Okidogi EX and the like those ones. But I mean, Fizznip EX obviously very good, and Peckrun EX is pretty good as well, but not really in this, not attackers, right? So those ended up being kind of bad. Not Fizznip, but like the other ones. So Janice didn't really end up having the right partners, and again with like Binding Mochi, you can poison easily without this.
Yeah. One thing that fits on what you said, we're considering. We even discussed between us when we were planning out the episode, but I think we're both on the same page. We're looking at standard format now, not really pre-rotation. I took that into account a little bit with this, but for the most part, there are some cards that were much better pre-rotation that have fallen off pretty hard now. So they don't get much of a bump if they're a good pre-rotation.
Yeah, like what? I wasn't even like thinking about that. I was just like, these supporters can do solid stuff.
Okay, like for example, I'll jump in my list here, and I'll my number 8 card, which in one sense I feel like I put it too low, but I see you don't have it at all. So I'm
Oh yeah, I think it's bad.
so Explorer's Guidance. You mind if we you mind? It's okay if we start talking about that now.
Yeah, I'm fine starting whoever.
Okay, and because this answers gets into your question. Obviously, it's an ancient card. Pre-rotation when like the single prize Roaring Moon was a solid deck. I don't think it was a great deck. I think it was a solid deck. You played 4 copies of this in every build of that deck, right? So I think this would have been on my top 10, would have been higher up even at that point. I still think so now without Dark Patch, that deck's fallen off a lot the Explorer's Guidance you're
It didn't
playing.
play Dark.
What's that? Well, did it
Or
play
did it
Dark
play Dark?
Patch? Well,
I didn't play the deck. I thought it
it
was kind of bad. Not terrible, but I don't think it played it. Anyways, that
yeah.
doesn't really matter.
So what the
Um,
but
it
what
is worse though.
so what
Or
this
it's played less.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends if you played the EX in the deck, like and stuff like that too. Or ancient box combos too. You look at the top 6 cards in your deck. What Explorer's Guidance does: put 2 of them in your hand, discard the others. So you need to play it in a deck you don't mind discarding. But looking at the top 6, putting 2 in your hands, it's. I think that's not bad. Honestly, you're gonna improve your situation for the most part, right? And particularly, again, this goes back to rotation when we're playing like double turbo energies in decks. There's a good chance you get your double turbo in hand as well. So I think it has value. I think it's still a card worth considering today. You don't like it. You didn't like it before rotation, and I don't think you'd like it now either.
Yeah, I mean, you don't like so you're discarding a bunch of random cards from your deck. I mean, no, that's not exactly true. But you're discarding a bunch of cards from your deck, and you don't necessarily want to do that. You do get to keep some, but and you want to like you do want to see as many as you can, so you can get as many as you can, or so you can like draw as many as you can and see that selection. But then you are discarding cards that you probably need. That is kind of annoying. And then it doesn't draw you that many cards. I mean, it is only 2 cards. It's not a terrible supporter, I don't think, but I think I'd rather draw like 4 cards from the top of my deck, for example, or have some more versatility. I have a few different like supporters on my list. Oh, including so let's talk about Hassle, I think. Because this is kind of similar. I mean, they're certainly not the same, but they have some similarities because Hassle says, "Are you fine with that?" I'm assuming you are.
Yeah, that's fine. And by the way, it's number 10 on my list. So really at the bottom,
Yeah.
it's number 2 on your list. So obviously a very it's a very, I think it's situationally really good, or obviously not useful at all. Is kind of where it is. So anyway, go ahead. You're
Yeah.
about to read the text, I think.
Yeah. So you can only play it if one of your Pokemon is knocked out last turn, but it lets you look at the top 8 cards of your deck and put 3 of them into your hand, shuffle the others back into your deck. So you get more cards than Explorer's Guidance. You see more cards than Explorer's Guidance, and you don't lose them. And discarding can be nice, but it's probably worse, though it's not, it doesn't matter that much. Again, there are certain decks where you want the discard synergy, but they're not like super common. So anyways, Hassel is ignoring the knockout part. It's, I think, objectively better than Explorer's Guidance by a lot, right?
Um, I think so. Look, Explorer's Guidance, you want it in a deck that wants cards in the discard pile, right? Which of course is
Well,
part
the
of
only deck that I know, yeah, it is Ancient Box, right?
right. Ancient Box wants it. I mean, if you're playing, assuming you have draw for the Pokemon, a deck like Archaludon, which you need to get energy in the discard pile to accelerate out, right? You could play it, right? Because you're going to probably get 1 or 2 metal energy in the discard pile when you play this card, right? So
Yeah, you definitely could. I mean, it's like, okay, I'd rather play, honestly, Warrior's Conviction over this, I think. Warrior's Conviction, you discard 1 from your hand, which generally isn't that bad, can be nice, and then lets you draw potentially more cards. Again, I don't like it. I mean, it's not on my list, but that was closer to making it than Explorer's Guidance. Um, so, it can have some discard. I mean, you don't have that many energies in your deck like Caledon, maybe like 8.
yeah,
Um, and sometimes it's not that, right? So, like, you could hit what you need, but there's a good chance you don't. I mean, like, I've only really seen it played in some weird decks from time to time that have been, in my opinion, pretty bad. Or at least it's been, a bad supporter within that. And I don't know. I mean, how much have you played it? I mean, I haven't played all
wait,
these cards that much, but
you talking about Hassle here?
Explorer's Guidance.
I mean, I was playing the single prize Ancient Box. If that was, I
Yeah,
felt
that was
like
tied
that.
to that.
Um, Not much, honestly. I'm trying to think. I think I did put it in a deck or two, but I can't remember what. Obviously, look, you if you're going to play it, it's in a deck that wants to just discard, right? Wants cards to discard. So there are cards that
But I
like,
think it's only played in Ancient Box where it wants it in the it want explore it it wants Explorer's Guidance in the discard because it's extra damage, and it also has synergy with the deck. And even then, it's not. I mean, it's not your ideal supporter either. So I don't know. I mean, like, it's not a completely terrible supporter. This is supporter like 20. You said it was. So that's not like super high, but I mean, I don't know. I think the other ones are better. Like Hassel. I think Hassel is much better because you're getting knocked out a bunch, right?
mhm.
And that's when you need to use stuff. Obviously, playing earlier can be nice as well, but Hassel you can play on a bunch of the turns of the game and gets you more cards and doesn't have like really downsides to it. So I feel like Hassel's just much better, and I played Hassel some. I actually haven't played it that much recently, or I don't play it that much, but it's a decent supporter at times. I mean, no, it's a great supporter at times. In decks, I think it's a decent supporter.
Yeah. I like Hassle more than Explorer's Guides. It's a niche, right? It's usually Ancient Box decks. There's a few other decks that could play it, yeah. I get yeah. So probably I can see that. Hey, people played it in Gardevoir at the latest event. So I'm not
Yeah, that
sure.
seems bad.
I
People play the weird stuff all the time, though. And so I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
So here's the thing with Hassle. I think I like it. Basically, when I played it, it's been in single prize decks only because you have to be knocked out. So single prize deck, you're getting knocked out 5 times. You haven't lost the game yet, assuming you're not hitting the bench, right? Which then you're in a bit of trouble. So if you have that means I have a decent chance to probably pull off Hassle twice over the course of the game. If I'm playing a multi-prize deck, 3 knockouts, I might whiff. I'm probably only going to get 0 or 1 hassles over the course of the game, right? Because I have to get into hand, and then I have to hope I get the right cards. So I think for multi-prize attacking decks, I don't like hassle. I like it in single prize decks. That's where it starts to
Yeah,
have
I
value.
think it's niche in single price or in multi-price decks. I think it can be played. If you had a way to search it out, then it would be pretty good, but you don't. But I think it's pretty solid in single price decks. I've seen this, obviously single price decks are like pretty weak and but it was still like Ancient Box is also like not played that much, and that's really the main use of Explorer's Guidance. Again, Hassel like isn't. I'm not saying it's absurdly strong. I could see dropping a little, but I found it pretty decent when I played it as well. And it's definitely a card that is pretty solid in some like in really fun decks. It's definitely a supporter that deserves a spot in a lot of those.
Yeah, look, when I first started with this list, I thought Hassel would be up really high because I like single prize decks. Like I said, I don't think it's good in non-single prize decks. That's why I put it low, but I like it. It's a lot of fun. I agree. It hasn't seen any play post rotation tournament wise. It makes maybe saw some play in some Lost Zone decks, which you can see it going in a Lost Zone build, right?
Yeah,
Not
this is
it's
a good single prize deck.
right in a little maybe I see like a Snorlax stall deck, which again you can kind of see it in that. Although I think you have better options than that there. So
Yeah.
it's a mainly single prize deck. Unfortunately, single prize decks aren't overly competitive, right? So I think I probably mark it down some for that. I gotta say.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think a lot of these cards are. I don't know. We'll talk about them as we go through them. But I'm looking through on the Japanese tournaments, which are a little more casual than the international tournaments on the regular limit list page. And so you see it in some more decks, and some of them are more single price decks. So it's definitely I think an interesting supporter. I could see it a little lower. I'm kind of thinking I might move it down one spot on my list or something. But anyways, then let's talk about what do you want to talk about? I want to talk about Cyrano, which is your top supporter here. And I don't have it on my list. I didn't really consider it. I don't think it's super good. What it does, you search for three supporters. Sorry, no, you search for three EXs with a supporter, and put them into your hand. So why is that so high for you? And like,
Okay.
I don't think I've played it. I played it a little bit, and I didn't find it particularly strong. And so, and that's it. I mean, I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's super good either.
All right. So I have, I believe, a lot of Pokemon search cards up high. I think my top three are
Oh,
all
I see
in
that.
that
Yeah.
category. So EXs are, look, I said to you, I think before, I don't believe I played the top card in a deck, and I don't think
Yeah.
I've actually played it. I might be
Hmm.
wrong, but I think I got to start playing it or thinking about it more. First, looking for three Pokemon, three EXs. I don't know there's how else you can get three X's in play. There's very few ways to do that or
Yeah.
into hand. So that's just really good in and of itself.
Well, I feel like you don't need three EXs. Like, um, if you're attacking with an EX, you need that one, and then maybe you have a support one. But I don't think you usually need a third one, except maybe in like Raging Bolt that could be good. But like, you really don't want to be playing this there, right? Because you need your like Sod's Vitality, or you want like Explosive Draw, maybe in the like worst case scenario, or like Gust or something like that.
But
Or I don't know.
if you had that and you grab your Pidgeot EX, your Charizard EX, your Dragapult EX, and get those all in play, I think you're pretty
But I
happy.
don't. Oh yeah, I guess. But this doesn't get all those into play. It gets them all of them into your
No,
hand. Then you need the three rare candies. You already need the three basics.
well, yeah. I mean, I get to use the Pidgeot EX, so that gets me one extra piece. But you're right. I obviously you pointed out the weak spot there. It's seen a
Yeah,
little
and you're
bit.
probably not playing all those together anyways. I mean, you could, but
Well,
like,
yeah.
I can't think the last time I've seen that. It was probably in Twin Battles or something. But
I mean,
yeah,
I'm looking at where it's seen play. It's not seen a ton of play, but in Goldingo's the most popular, and there you can see it, right? You get three Goldingo or two Goldingos and your Pheasantipity into play, and now you're drawing three, four, five, six cards after you play your supporter. That's pretty good, right? Um, and
oh, and
then
then with Enzoric EX as well there,
yeah,
with Archaludon EX and so that like Enzoric EX is a draw engine stage one. Honestly, that's something I haven't really thought about. I think Enzoric EX is kind of bad being a two prize draw engine, because it gives up two prizes and you can get stuck. You can get out using End's Castle, but you don't really want to be using End's Castle because it's not like that good. I mean, it doesn't do anything else for the deck outside of stopping you from getting stuck. So I don't know. I think it's like kind of interesting with that because then it can get you these EXs which you want more of. Because generally most of your Pokemon are like I don't know if most, but a lot of your Pokemon are single prizers. The ones that you just want to kind of flood the board with are often single prizers, especially because they're not liabilities, except in like Dragapult against Dragapult.
right. So I mean, like if you need to get a bunch of EXs into play, and probably a lot of decks do, and if you're like playing, especially if you're playing like Pidgeot EX in your deck, I think putting one Cyrano in is probably a good idea a lot of the time, right? Because you need three Ultra Balls to do the same thing, and of course you have to discard six cards that don't work. There is like certain other cards that do some of this, right? There's the A spec that gets you a little bit of stuff too. Oh, I forget what those different options are, depending what the stage is and stuff like that. So I just think, look, what this
Oh,
does,
the hyper aroma or whatever.
yeah. I mean, there's the one A spec that gets the basics on your bench. There's the one A spec that gets the stage ones, right? Unlimited stage ones, I think.
Yeah, unlimited basics. There are 3 stage 1 EXs.
Okay. So, you know, three EXs is obviously pretty good. That's what I'll say. Look, there's not even an item card that says search your deck for one EX, right? Um,
Well, well, no. I guess there.
oh,
Yeah, no. There's like
oh,
Ultra Ball and like Best Ball, but which are obviously very good, and that's a little bit different. That would be
no,
good.
no. But
There's
my
like
point is, like, if there was an item that said search for two EXs, you'd play that all the time, right? In most of these
yeah,
decks, and even if there was one that
in a
says
bunch of
search,
decks. Yeah.
yeah. Well, if you're playing EXs, right? I imagine you're going to put in at least a copy in those
Yeah. I
decks.
mean, I think Ultra Ball and Nest Ball are generally better, but it could definitely be really good. I mean, I don't really like what's the item card? The Terra Orb. I'm not a big fan of it. I know some people like it a lot. I generally don't really play it
Yeah.
in like anything, but yeah, it'd be kind of like that, but better, but just similar use case, of course.
Yeah, look, and or if there was an item that I think searched for one EX, um, it would probably see some play because Terra Orb sees some play, and it's worse than that because it only searches for a Terra Pokemon, right? So my thought is if there's an item that searched for one EX, it would see some play. Then a supporter that searches for three EXs is potentially very good.
Maybe, but like supports and items do have different roles. Again, you did mention Badoo, and that's fair. But I mean, if you're Badooed and you're getting these stage 2 EXs, you can't play them anyways. And I mean, maybe you could, but you need a bunch of
Hmm.
stage ones, which you can't get with Zero now. And then I mean, I don't know. I think it has some use cases. I don't think it's like the worst supporter in the game. I think it's all right.
But look, I'll
But
just say, with Sierra, you could get basic EXs as well as stage one and stage twos. And this might see in the future when we get these mega Pokemon. If you get three mega EXs into play, you might be game over at that point. I don't know
I don't for you because then you don't need a
because I'm
third
gonna.
Mega EX because it doesn't like do anything. No, I think I don't know. I think it's okay. I mean, you haven't even played this card. Um,
That,
I've played it some, and it wasn't terrible. I think I played it. I can't remember. Again, I think it's all right, but I think all the spores I have on my list are better than it.
okay, should we talk about my two and three Pokemon cards supporters here because they're similar. They're also Pokemon Search, and I don't think you have
Yeah,
any of these on your list either,
I
right?
have Brock Scouting on my list at 6,
Okay.
which I think is all right. I don't love it. When I played it, I haven't loved it. I thought it was gonna be all right, and when I played it, it's been like kind of mediocre. And I don't like Jack. I think Jack is not fun. So and bad. I think it's kind of bad. So yeah, let's talk about him.
Okay, so Brock Scouting, which you have at 6, I have as 2. Search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon or 1 evolution Pokemon. Reveal and put them into your hand. It's nice versatility, right? It gives you basics, 2 basics or 1 evolution of any stage. So that's pretty good there, all in all. It's cards that give you some flexibility are a plus, which I think is partly, I imagine, is partly what you like with it. If we're in a world where a lot of decks are playing Badoo, I haven't done it yet, but maybe you play like 4 Brock Scouting your decks just to try to get things going, right? Because you need to get basics first, and then you need to get evolutions after that into play.
Yeah, Brock Scouting is like decent. It's a little weak. Like I think a logical comparison that's like decently similar is Arwen again, like the Badoo thing, but um, it's way more versatile. Brock Scouting is moderately versatile and just moderately strong, but certainly not that strong. It's a decent supporter in some situations, but
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, I mean look, if it was just the first part, search for 2 basics only, then it would be a lot worse. The fact that it gives you the possibility for an evolution as well makes it look gives it some more interest. Look, I don't think it was good before Badoo, but now I've been seeing a lot of Badoo. I don't know what you've been.
no, didn't it came out after Badoo, right?
I think so,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
um, but
So I also agree it wasn't good
okay.
before Badoo.
So, and also I think it's better post rotation. I think Badoo's kicked up probably. I mean, it wasn't
Uh,
around that much before rotation anyway, so that might not be relevant. I've been getting honestly, I've had at least a third of my games. It feels like half. Maybe it's only a quarter, but I'm just getting bedewed from turn one. Pretty much, it feels like all the time, and I'm just sitting there for and my opponent, or they're just bedewing me, and I'm doing nothing for like 10 turns. It's not fun.
Yeah. And
So
then they're also like not doing anything either because they're
that's
just
what.
doing you
No,
every
they're not
turn.
doing anything either. They're doing 10 damage a turn on my Pheasant Deputy EX or whatever I got sitting there in the active, and it's like okay, we're just gonna stare at each other for a while. It makes the game pretty unfun. So which is why I'm thinking I've been playing a bunch of Goldingo, so which I like. But when you get bedewed, you want to go first with that deck, but when you get bedewed, it's not fun. So probably do I put 4 Brack Scouting in the deck? I don't know. It's problematic to do that too, but um, I think in the past, like I said, the item cards to search for Pokemon are great, right? Like Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, and such. So supporters that did that weren't you didn't like, but now I think they have a lot more valuable in in a lot of decks. Maybe 1 copy, 2 copies, some of these cards.
Yeah, I think like it's definitely a card I've seen played like some in like lists, and again I played it like in Dragapult, and I didn't like it. I think it's kind of bad. So um because something again it does work under Badoo, but you don't necessarily have it under Badoo, and I don't know. Like I just think you need to be able to like draw a bunch of cards. I'd rather like play a research or an Iono, and you could put 8 of those. Like you can play 4 research for Iono and be drawing a bunch of cards. And in that
Well,
situation, you're going to be able to just go ahead and probably get a good chunk of the things that you need, or at least some things that you need, and also like just some extra stuff, which Rock Scouting doesn't. Rock Scouting is pretty consistent. Like if you put a bunch of those in, your deck will be consistently setting up. It'll be like turn 3, which is really slow. So it does do some things, and if your opponent's like doing and not applying any pressure, then it kind of works. But I think that's pretty niche, and like I mean, if they're just not applying any pressure to you, then it doesn't really matter anyways.
look, I mean, Brock Scouting at the Atlanta Regional, it just happened. There's almost a full page of decks that played it. So I don't know how many
Yeah.
copies, but it was in a lot of decks. Dragapult for the most part, which is a really good deck, and Terapagos Noctowl decks basically.
Yeah, but I think it's like because Dragapult's good. I think it's not like Brock Scouting is good, and that's what made it work. I think people were like, "Oh, let's play some Brock Scouting," and then they did it. Actually, it's like the fun new card, and then that's
Look, it's
looks like what happened as well.
it's not like Brock Scouting that's fun. It's not that interesting, right? It's not going to be the new shiny toy. I think because with Brock Scouting and because Badoo's a thing, right? I think first Dragapult's really good. I think it's probably the best deck in format, in a void, right? Not worrying about the meta. I think it's the best thing around, just generally. You could debate it, but it's really good. So I think Badoo's a big problem, but once you start to get your board set up, and Dragapult sets up okay, once you get going, because the stage one, the Dracolo gives you a bit of gives you an engine and stuff. So I think, look, you see it there, and also the Jacques also saw play too. Just the Jacques, I don't, did we say what it does? You search for 2 evolution Pokemon, so which is more than you get with Brock Scouting for evolutions, but you can't get basics, so it can be better. So that was, that also was seeing play in Dragapult. So again, and hey, it was in the winning Gardevoir list as well, but primarily in Dragapult, which there's going to be a lot of Dragapult for a while, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be drag until unless we get like some 3 prices that just kind of like destroys it. Because like there is going to be bench wear coming back, but that does not stop it. So, yeah, Jack's okay. I mean, I've just never been a big fan of it because it doesn't even help you get set up in the early game. Really, I mean, it can, but only if you like drew the right stuff already. And so I think Jack is really niche. And it's like not it's like a little versatile but not that versatile, not that strong, and pretty slow. um so yeah, I think it's pretty, I mean, obviously I don't have it on my list here. I don't think it's in the top 20 supporters in the game. I think it's weaker than the best supporters and kind of doing something, it's like still a setup supporter. I do have some setup supporters that I obviously think are better than it that aren't those top tier, but it doesn't really get you what you need unless you already have like a bunch of what you need, and I guess you're also item locked, which can happen, but it's not that common.
Yeah, look, I mean, there are times that even if you're not item locked, you would want Brock Scout. I mean, that you'd want Jock searching. Like if you're like using your Pidgeot EX to get an Ultra Ball, you'd probably rather, because assuming you're getting evolution, I take it back. It's a might. You might actually prefer to get two evolutions without having to discard, right? Depending what's in your hand and all that. So, look,
Yeah.
Jacques good. It sees some play. So, where do you want to go next, though?
I'll go to. I guess I'll go to my number one supporter, which is your number four
Okay.
supporter. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
number
go
four.
there. And so that's Kieran. Kieran is a supporter that gives you two options. There aren't that many supporters like this, I guess. I mean, yes, Brock Scouting kind of does. It's a certain form. But anyways, you choose to either switch your active with,
Hmm.
just use a switch, or you can use a do 30 extra damage to EXs or Vs or just EXs. I'll also mention Black Belt's training. That was my number 9 supporter. It was your number 5, so it's right next to it. I
Yep.
personally think, like, I just always rather, or almost always rather, play Kieran over Black Belt's training because it does more. Black Belt's training is fine. I certainly don't think it's bad. But that's 40 extra damage. It does 10 more. That 10 more can be meaningful, though. How often is that? I mean, I know I don't find it super meaningful that often. But Kieran is a supporter that has versatility. You can get like stuck in the active through various means. If your opponent Badoo's you, that can, slow you down, and Kieran can get you out of that. But something like Maractus or Totodile, can get you stuck, and then you can't retreat at all. There are different situations where we want switches, and it's nice. And then there are definitely situations where we want to be able to do extra damage, and of course, this is a way to do that. I think Kieran is a really solid supporter that is pretty well rounded, and it's one that I like. I don't play it all the time, but I've definitely played it some, and it's felt pretty solid in decks I played it in. It's kind of like, it feels almost as good as Switch. I feel like Switch is like a card that you don't need that often. You might need in the late game, and then you're not, playing as many supporters at that time. Things might be bogged down a little bit, something like that. And then the 30 extra I see more as like a little advantage that you get in addition to that. But again, the 30 extra damage can be the main use of it as well, depending what you want, if that fixes the math. And again, I feel like that is often like almost as good as Black Belt's training, and so that's nice.
Yeah, look, I mean, the black belt's training does 10 more than Kieran, so without the switching. So for most of the time, so assume you don't need that at 10 extra damage, Kieran's better, right? So it depends on your deck and what your matchups are going to be. If you think you need to hit 40 instead of 30, then you're going to play back black belt's training. If you don't think that extra 10 matters, then you're going with Kieran. I think Kieran is better generally. It's seen more play too. It is the whole the item lock world, especially if you're set up later and have some draw in play already, right? Kieran, you can do a switch, right? If your opponent's like trying to stall you out, either early game or late game, right? Because like when things aren't going well, try to get your opponent something stuck in the act that can't attack, and boss stall behind the Badoo if that's all you got. It's not the worst thing in the world to do, right? So you have an answer to that with Kieran, and the extra damage is good. So, and Kieran is, I was just taking a look at what was played in recently. It's been played in these Poison Archaludon decks, probably mainly for the switching, but then the Archaludon might need that. You might
Yeah,
need
I
the
mean, 30 extra damage is pretty nice there.
right, because then I assume you have the poison, and you can get to the knockout numbers with. They both have value in that case. So I do like it, and there's some Flareon Noctowl's decks playing it as well. So, um, again, so I think yeah, Kieran, you had it as what you say? You had it as your
And that is
number
the
one.
top one. Yeah.
So
I guess it's not that much higher than where you have it.
yeah, I mean yeah, yeah, it's similar ish. Um, yeah, look, I can see that being the top card. It is one of the better of these cards. It probably a lot of decks are going to put in one or two copies of this card pretty happily.
Yeah, and also comparing it to most of the cards on this list, or either of these lists, a lot of them are cards that have overlap with other cards. Kieran has some level of overlap. There are damage boosting cards, and certainly switching cards that are played, but in terms of supporters, they're not as common. I guess Professor Terror's scenarios less Penny are switching supporters, but they are not just switching supporters. They have differences. They are scoop up supporters, so that can be better, but it can be worse. And then they also, of course, don't have that versatility or the extra damage. So Kieran's like a pretty, as you said, safe inclusion index. Not always going to go in, but like something like Hassle, which I do think is good, but that's a card that's going to be played a little. It's going to be played less because it kind of overlaps with these strong supporters being these draw supporters, and so it's competing with better cards. So Kieran makes it in easier. I want to talk about Colossus Tenacity, though. You're this one at 9 on your list. This one
Yeah.
searches for a stadium and an energy. Put them into your hand and shuffle your deck. So I think it's really good for a few different reasons. You can get Grand Tree. Grand Tree is a really powerful stadium. It can be like a rare candy. It's not a rare candy again for the Badoo thing. It's kind of weird. It's a stadium. Both players can use it,
Yeah.
and it can be like really scary to use, especially if you're up against a deck like Dragapult. But it is really strong. I think it's really good in Feraligatr. I think it's almost required in Feraligatr. I'm not gonna lie. I think if you're playing Precious Trolley, I think that's terrible. I'm just like, don't play Precious Trolley and Feraligatr. That's really bad. But I think if you're playing something like there are other aspects that are okay, they get some value in that. But Grand Tree is just so good for setting up. And then you play Colossus Nest. You kind of build around this card. Then you can use Artizone, and this can be a search. Again, this is like kind of bad. It's kind of questionable search because it does help your opponent. But if you're building around it, your opponent's kind of built to set up without it. So they'll only get some value out of it, but you'll be kind of building around it and getting a bunch of value out of the stadiums. And then you can get any energy, including special energy or basic energy. So it can be used to get, whatever, like reversal in Feraligatr, or luminous energy can be nice, or the basic energies. I found it to be a really solid supporter in that deck specifically. I haven't played it too much in other decks. I can't actually remember what else I've played it in. Post rotation, I definitely played it with double turbo energy pre rotation, but that's not what we're talking about. But it's a pretty good supporter. Obviously, we don't have the strongest special energies in the game right now, so that's a bit of a downside to it. But honestly, I think it's a supporter that is really solid. Again, mostly for like Grand Tree and like the stadium stuff, and it can be really nice. And I've just found it shockingly good when I played it.
Yeah, what it does, it does something that nothing else does basically in the game, and that's what makes it good. It searches for a stadium, and there's very few cards that allow you to search for a stadium. Um,
Noctowl can.
Noctowl
Oh,
can,
Pidgeot also gets anything, but Noctowl's a stage 1.
right? I'm not sure. There's not another supporter, and I don't know if there's an item, but I could be wrong on that. It's very limited, obviously, what you can search for a stadium, so that's good. And also, let's just search for any energy, including, like I said, special energies. And there's very few cards that let you search for special energies. So you look for a stadium and a special energy potentially. It gives it value, right, for a number of decks. The reason, which is why it was on the list, honestly, I thought that you weren't going to have it on the list at all. So so that's kind of I thought I was going to have to defend it. So what I'm going to say instead is that here's why I put it low, because you put it up at 3 and I'm 9, so that's a decent gap. Basically, since rotation, it's not seeing competitive play. It was played with Cloth Terapagos. Obviously,
I think it is the best way to play Feraligatr. I'm gonna say that. I've like
okay,
done a bunch of stuff to talk about Feraligatr a bunch on my channel. And I see people play it on ladder some, and they just are really bad at it. Like they're really bad. So yeah, I think this is definitely the best way to play it. It adds consistency to the deck, which is like the most important thing in any deck. And also it adds some level of power. Um, and it just lets you do more things. It's kind of weird. It's definitely a very different feel than other things.
right.
The other builds are more reliant on Arven and TM evolution, but things can go very badly with that. And so again, things can go badly if you're kind of like you're not necessarily just relying on Grand Tree, but it's a nice part of your game plan. But yeah, Colossus Tenacity is a card that allows you to do some really interesting things with Feraligatr and probably decks like it. I think I played Tyranitar and it was in it.
Hmm.
I don't remember. Tyranitar isn't amazing, but it's okay. And definitely not bad, but not not like a top 10 deck. But it's interesting and like these it's useful for Grand Tree. It's useful for um your deck's kind of built like Feraligatr, which there are different ones and they're okay. They're not super strong, but they're interesting. And Feraligatr is pretty good, but the other ones aren't amazing.
Yeah, the colors tenacity. It's what it does. It's very unique. It might be the most unique of the supporters on our list. I'm not sure.
Um,
It is the most unique card on my list. I think it might not be the most unique card on your list. So we'll see. But it does something that very few cards do. So therefore, it's got value in the right decks for sure.
yeah. And then I have two recovery supporters. You have them. Oh, you have them a little lower, but they're just 2 spots lower each. So they're Miriam and Lana Zaid. I'm actually a little surprised you had Miriam above Lana Zaid. Miriam honestly isn't a sport I play that much, but I play it some. And it's always really cool when I play it. It recovers up to 5 Pokemon from your discard into your hand. Or no, sorry, into your deck, not your hand. And then you draw 3 cards. So it's like absurd Pokemon recovery. You don't really need 5 Pokemon to recover 5 Pokemon, like ever, honestly. But it's like interesting. It's kind of interesting with Starmie, but who plays that, right? But it's interesting for some different use cases. Definitely a card that if you can tap into the potential of drawing all those, like of getting all those Pokemon back, it's kind of absurd because it's just so many Pokemon you're getting back. But you generally can't do that. But it's like decent recovery. It's like kind of like a super rod, not quite a super rod, but it's close. And then you can draw some cards, and that's good. It's pretty dynamic. And then also the next one is Lanazade. Lanazade sees more play again. I see some playing like Trailgater, as he's playing a bunch of different things. I used to think this card was bad. I mean, I thought Clara, which is a similar supporter, was pretty bad, but this is it's nice for. I mean, it recovers 3 in any kind. It's like super odd to your hand, but for a non-EX Pokemon or non-rule box Pokemon. So it's kind of good in again for Alligator. It can be played in the Goldengo. It's not super good. I definitely think it's weak in Goldengo. But then you could play it in kind of people have played in Slowking. Some I don't even know if these tournaments are. Looks like it's not post rotation, but one of them is. But yeah, it's interesting. It's like decent recovery. It's not insane, but it can allow you to get card like it's kind of with Monkey Dory specifically getting back the Pokemon and the energy. It's not super powerful, right? It's not getting you. I mean, it's getting again. It's like weaker super rod. It is to your hand, but it's solid.
Yeah, look, I think I think you said you're surprised about Mary Mahetalana's aid, but we both had Mary Mahetalana's aid, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I thought you would
You
say
thought I'd be
Marion was
reversed,
bad.
and we're
Yeah,
similar in our rankings. I have them at 6 and 7. You have them at 4 and 5. So you put them a little higher, but that's not a huge swing. Miriam saw decent play before rotation. Hasn't really seen competitively. There obviously hasn't been a lot of tournaments.
Miriam has.
It did. It's awesome. Yeah. Hey, Tord was a champion of it.
I
So
guess it was in with a lot of Gardevoir.
yeah, a lot of Gardevoir, and obviously there was a lot of Gardevoir back then too. So it's good, right? And you draw cards as well, right? So you need to get Pokemon back into your deck potentially. Certainly with Gardevoir, you did because you have those
Yeah, you don't need
attackers.
5 though.
No, you don't. But you didn't have to do 5, right? It was up to 5. You just had to do at
Yeah, you
least
can. I guess you
one.
could discard Pokemon. You could discard like all of your attackers, then recover them. But that seems kind of silly. But
Right. I mean, the fact that it drew 3 was important to its value as well, right? That's why.
yeah, it's like a draw 3 plus. Is kind of how I like. I mean, the recovery is nice. It's pretty equal parts between the two. Like draw 3 is obviously an iconic supporter,
Yeah.
and bad, but it's not like if you've ever played it, it does something. And so this is draw 3, but it's like around twice as good as a draw 3 card. Drawing 3 and then also getting Pokemon back, I think are pretty equivalent.
Yeah. Now, did this come out before Super Rod was reprinted, or no? I don't
I
remember.
think I don't remember. I'm not. I'm going to be completely honest, but
Okay.
it wasn't that long. I think Super Rod was Paldea evolved, and I guess we didn't have Ordinary Rod, so yeah, maybe. And it might have been played some at that point, but that's pretty small period of time.
It came out in Scarlet and Violet base set, so I guess there was at least one format where this was your best Pokemon recovery, I think, too. But obviously those days are behind us. I will just I on terms of Lana's aid, we both think it's a little worse, but I think Claire was actually very good. So it was a card I love to play. And I think Lana's aid, I think with some of the new cards coming out, Clara, which was you had the choice of one or both of up to 2 Pokemon and or up to 2 basic energies from your discard pile into your hand. So Lana's aid's a little bit worse, I would say. Because so Pokemon felt like they needed to nerf Clara. I think right now it's any 3, and without a rule box. So I think with some of the new cards, I think Lana's Aids is going to become a little more useful in the future. I think so. Just I think keep
Wait,
your.
what new cards? Like cards that are
I
out or
mean,
they're coming
no,
out?
I think that are coming out. I think there's some, and I don't remember what they are exactly, honestly.
Do you kind of remember what they are, or do you not remember at all?
I mean, with the Clara, it was with the uh
Moltres.
yeah, there's the baby Moltres in particular was really good with and I think there's some things that are kind of functioning along those lines, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I don't know. I mean, there's the Blood Luna, which is out.
Hmm.
Um, Oh, maybe the Ethan's Ho EX or something. I don't know. I think there were like a bunch of them are EXs, but it has some interesting synergies from time to time.
Yeah, look, I mean, we both see it as useful, right? We're both kind of we see it in mid tier two, right? You're slightly below the mid, but they're both kind of okay tier two
Yeah, or
supporters.
high to mid tier two, because there are like more tier two supporters that aren't on this list
Yeah,
for either of us.
yes,
But yeah. Anyways, then I have so yeah, we've covered all of. Oh, we've covered all of
I
yours,
think we've
right?
hit. Yes, I think we have. Yes,
So we have three of mine. I guess we'll talk about Surfer here. Surfer's Switch, draw till you're 5 in hand. It's not the strongest draw. It's a Switch. And I don't have that much to say about it. I think it's fine enough. I played it some, and it's fine within those decks. The decks I played in are ones that need a lot of Switch, and it's fine there. Again, the draw's all right. And the Switch is a Switch. So that's that. It's, again, not super strong. Have you played it, or have you
I've played
found
it
any
in
rest?
some decks. What I found, I forget which decks I played in. I find most of the time when I have a surfer and I could use it, I already have 5 cards in hand, so or more. So I'm maybe drawing 1 card or no cards, and so it's not very useful. So these drawn till
Can't you like pare your hand down though?
no, I cannot.
I
I
feel
can't,
like in almost every hand in like every game, you can like pare it down to like three or something.
when
Again, you
I
don't necessarily want to do that, but
yeah, I mean, just my sense is Surfer and I just haven't got along, honestly. When I have Surfer and I could, and it's like I need some cards, I haven't been able to get the cards. You know how that goes sometimes, right?
yeah, no,
Um,
that's fair. Me with if I'm playing with Precious Trolley, I just never find it. I mean, I still don't think it's good, even if I was able to draw it like earlier on. But I like it's just like a nest ball to me. It gets me 1 card,
yeah, so
maybe
look,
two.
I mean, if you need a lot of switching in your deck, then you can include Surfer, right? So, yeah, I see it's not a terrible choice. You put it at the bottom of your list, so I think that's fine.
Yeah, it can be a little versatile. Like it's having a switch in your deck is nice, especially a supported switch. It's a little more versatile or it's I'd say more like resilient against Badoo, and it's like less likely to be. I mean, Airy isn't a card either of us talked about. I don't
Right.
think that. Yeah, Airy's like fine. Um, it could be on here, but it's really different as well. Obviously, not really a techable card, and Surfer can't get Airied, so that's like cool, I guess. But whatever. Then I have Drayton. Drayton is an interesting supporter. You look at the top 7, you reveal a Pokemon and trainer, you find there, put them into your hand, shuffle the other cards back into your deck. I recently played this in Dragapult. It wasn't great, but it was like instead of the Arvins, right? Like, these supporters aren't as good as Arvin. We kind of know that. But it wasn't terrible. Drayton was okay. It's not super consistent, but it gets you something, or it gets you multiple things, and it has solid value. It actually didn't have solid value because it was like item locked like most of the time. But assuming you're not item, well, actually no, it actually had decent, it had okay value still because you could get supporters. So I was actually like training Draytons together, but I wasn't hitting any of the Pokemon I wanted, so that was kind of unfortunate. But it's still okay. I actually hadn't played it before making this list, and I played it a few times, and it felt fine. Have you played the supporter yet?
I don't know that I have. It's a weird one. It looks. I mean, like I feel like there's like I would take Explorer's Guidance over this because I look at what
Um,
6, but I get to get 2 of what I want. I'm not restricted to type. It's very
Yeah, but
different,
usually you
obviously.
want like Pokemon and trainers. It's not always the perfect mix, but I found it like pretty. I found it fine. I mean, Arvin's obviously really good. It's kind of like a less consistent version
Well,
of
it's a
Arvin, which is like kind of bad because Arvin you want to be consistent. But I mean, same
right.
thing with like Explorer's Guidance, right? That's not the most consistent. Most of these supporters aren't incredibly consistent here. I don't think Drayton's insane, but I think it's fine. When I saw it, I was like, this is like kind of interesting, and I think that's
All right.
still where I stand with it.
All right, here's what I'm going to compare it to. I'm going to compare it to one of the cards that I've been a proponent of in the past too much, and that's Great Ball.
Yeah.
It's an item card, and you look at the top. I think it's 7 again. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you put any. I think what as many Pokemon as you find there in your hand, or is
No,
it one?
what?
Okay, so
Yeah.
it does half of what Drayton does, right, on an item. And
Well, kind of.
well, you get a Pokemon into your hand, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It does half of Drayton's work on an item, right? I don't think that's wrong to say, right? You can't get a trainer, but you get the Pokemon. Look at the same number of cards. So my thought is, I think it's like if a supporter is only if an item's half as good as a supporter, the item's better than the supporter. I think that's Pokemon math right there. Okay,
Like Pokemon
like a
Catcher,
supporter has to be equal to I think in like
right?
what's that
Just
Pokemon?
like Pokemon Catcher.
Well,
but no one plays that. No, I think supporters are generally about twice as good as items. Um,
I,
in
I
general, that's like how Pokemon likes to do it. Like,
okay.
you can find lots of examples. That's like exactly true. And some are around that as well. But there are
I,
like some like Pokeball is half as good as um Poke is on standard, but there's a bunch of cards like that.
so anyway, I think you want your supporter to be equal to like 3 items. That's kind of where I'm looking at for value. So
Um,
you disagree, and that's
no, but
fine.
I know I kind of agree. I mean, I kind of disagree, but I like I think Drayton is better than two Great Ball because the better thing to get is the trainer. The Pokemon I think is less
Well,
important.
okay.
So yeah,
So would you rather have a Drayton and a Pokegear 3.0 in your hand, or a Drayton?
what
Would
you
you
mean
rather have
Great Ball in a Pokegear?
Great Ball, yeah, Great Ball and Pokegear 3.0, or Drayton? I think I'd want the 2 items.
Um, I probably would. I'm not sure. I mean, like Drayton's not super strong. Like Boogier could get a better supporter. Again, these aren't the top tier supporters, but I think it's all right. I think
Okay.
it's a solid supporter. Again, when I played it, it was like all right. It's not insane, but it's fine. It's like okay for like setting you up. I think it's kind of like Brock scouting of it, like kind of similar range there, where it can help you out in some situations. It's not going to be helping you out in every situation, and it won't always do what you want it to do. But it's solid. Brock scouting is a little more consistent, but I'd say a little weaker. But
Okay. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean, Dream I've liked, or I haven't loved. I've found fine.
all right. I mean, I'm finding it hard as I'm thinking about it to think of what type of deck I'd want. And I could be wrong, obviously. And obviously,
I put in Dragapult, and it was fine.
okay. And look, if you want to comment, obviously, let us know your thoughts on Drayton or the other cards. I'm going to put that plug in now. So comment on our YouTube channels. They are either the 10 types or uncommon fossils. So because obviously we're disagreeing on stuff. I think the interesting thing about the tier 2 cards is you get good room for disagreements, right? Legitimate
Yeah, I think
disagreements.
like the tier one supporters are less interesting. They're also kind of like different. It's like, oh, this is the best pure draw supporter, or best disruptive plus draw supporter, or best gusting supporter, or best like they have their clear defined roles. But anyways, yeah, Drain is like I mean, like obviously Arvin's good, right? You played Arvin, and
Yes.
I used to think it was bad, but now the Force Seal Stones rotated. I think it's good. So
Now that it's gotten worse, you bought into it.
yeah, just one Arvin or no, like four Arvins and one tool is bad, but four Arvins and tools that are worse, so much better. No, I don't know. I like Arvin now, but so it's kind of like Arvin, but it sounds as good as Arvin, but none of these supports are as good as Arvin.
No.
So if it's like a mediocre Arvin, no, or like a bad Arvin, but that is still alright, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what you're giving up with a card like this is just consistency, right? You look at the top 7, you might get something, you might not, and you might not get anything at all. And the chances of getting that, like, if you know on a particular Pokemon, right, you're probably gonna whiff it, unless hopefully you hit then like a Pokemon search trainer along the way.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Also, it can get items, which is nice. Like compared it to Arvin, that's kind of what I'm comparing it to.
yeah.
But then it can get tools. Obviously, Arvin can also get tools, but
Hmm.
it can get, which is like fine. That's
Yep.
not what makes it good. It can get supporters though, which is nice. Getting supporters is cool. It's not gonna help you this turn, but it can help you for next turn, and it's nice to have that as an option. And it can get stadiums as well, which again is unique to only a few cards. Again, it's not consistently hitting them, but you can get a
Right.
wide array of cards. So you'll be getting stuff and should get something that's fine. But anyways, enough of Drayton. Let's talk about my last card. This is one that I don't know. It's Giovanni's Charisma. Giovanni's
Yeah.
Charisma is a card that is very different than every other card on either of our lists.
Right.
It's energy acceleration / energy disruption. You put an energy from your opponent's active into their hand, attach energy from your hand to your active. I have not played this card in so long. I've last played it in Iron Thorns pre-rotation, but it's really interesting, and Crushing Hammer is becoming better now. Dragapult is really good, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm a little lower on Dragapult than other people. I think it's like maybe the best deck in the game, which is like means I think it's really good, and everyone else thinks it's even better than I do, which is it's really good, right? So, but Dragon Ball doesn't like getting Crushing Hammered. I mean, no deck really likes it, but some decks are fine with it. Like pre-rotation, it wasn't that big of a deal, but you can Crushing Hammer, and that's really good. Against Dragon Ball, it doesn't destroy them, but it's not ideal. It definitely messes with them if you hit it, and you can play items. And then it's also like it's interesting against a lot of different decks. So Crushing Hammer is kind of nice. Giovanni's Charisma is kind of like that.
Right.
It isn't exactly the same, but it's It's disruptive. You can pair it with that, and then it accelerates as well, which is really good. Theoretically, like supports that accelerate energy are good, and it's adding on to that. It's not great acceleration. It's also not consistent acceleration. That's the biggest issue with this card is you can't always play it. Like if your opponent, if you can't disrupt, then you can't play it. So
Mhm.
that's the issue. I don't really know where to rank this one. I just kind of plopped it somewhere in the middle. It can be insane and it can be literally useless. So I think it's a decent supporter though.
Yeah, let me. So this is a disruption supporter, which is this is I think the only disruption supporter on either of our lists. So I just say first off,
Yeah.
Airy was back before rotation a better card than Giovanni's Charisma. I think.
Um, Maybe. I think they're different. Like Eri is a card, so Eri discards 2 items from your opponent's hand. Eri is interesting. It's weird. It's not like, but it's not. I don't know. It's like only really good in control-y decks. I think mostly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I played some Eri. I didn't really love the card. Didn't hate it, but Giovanni's Charisma can be played in like attacking decks and can be again really strong. It has the higher ceiling than Eri, I think.
Yeah. Now,
Oh, I guess Eri can like destroy your opponent in certain niche situations. But
I mean, Airy was played a lot. For one thing. And I think in a control deck or a stall deck, which was
yeah.
obviously good before rotation, you'd play an area or two in the deck probably. I don't think it was the best card of that. I think Misfortune Sisters was better myself, but you could it's a debatable issue. Um, but here's the question: there's another card like Giovanni's Charisma that it puts in the energy I think on top of their deck, but you don't get to accelerate. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What in this?
Yeah, Team Skullgrunt.
Okay, that has that.
Wait, or no, that is not rotated.
So
Wait, no, sorry, Team
is that yep?
Stargrunt.
Star Grunt?
Yeah, I said the wrong one. Um, yeah, which does what you said, put an energy from their active on
Okay.
top of their deck. I think this card's kind of bad. I used to think it was kind of good. Notably, it puts it on top, which means they get it back, which is the same as Giovanni's Charisma, which is
Well,
kind of bad. You'd rather
well
them not get it back, but it does stop them from drawing it, right? So,
right.
or just drawing something else.
Right. They don't draw a different card. So assuming they needed to draw something, which happens, because I think look, I played Giovanni's Charisma a decent amount. I like it. I could see it on the list.
What have you played it in?
Mostly Iron Thorns, and I played Iron
Oh,
Thorns for a
but you
bit.
haven't played that post rotation, right?
No, and
Or
I'm
have
looking
you?
at events. It hasn't been played post rotation.
No,
Um,
but I think it's a card with high potential, like big risk, big reward that just hasn't been tapped into. Um, so I think it could be good.
Maybe. I
That's my
mean,
thought.
look. I think pre-rotation it was good. I think it would have been in my top 10 probably. And plus, then we had an energy. Plus, we had the double turbo, which it doesn't matter. But
Yeah, because it can accelerate special energy, which is nice.
right, and then you attach an energy. So the energy acceleration is good. Like you said, you don't always have your opponent doesn't always oblige you by putting energy on their active Pokemon.
Yeah,
So,
I
so
think they do it more now, and I think it's more disruptive now. In pre-rotation, you had a lot of decks that accelerated a lot of energy
mhm.
or were like really cheap. So now there are decks that do accelerate energy, but it's a little less, it's a little slower, and removing like an energy can be a potentially a bigger deal. Not because it's slower, but because they can't accelerate.
Right. I just look. I brought up Team Star Grunt because I there was a big debate which was better for control decks, Team Star Grunt or Giovanni's Charisma. Some people saw there were
Oh yeah,
back and forth arguments on that. I prefer Giovanni's Charisma myself. I like the energy acceleration.
I mean they're different, right? Like I
It
think
is.
Giovanni's Charisma is more focused on the energy acceleration than the disruption. It's a bit
Yeah.
of both, though. I think it's like a big part of both. Obviously, Team Star or no, what's it? Yeah, Team Stargrunt is just energy disruption. It's not even
Right.
great energy disruption. Crushing Hammer, I think is actually gonna make a comeback. I haven't really said that, but I think it's pretty good. So
Yeah, well, look, especially as we have these poison decks and some disruptive decks, and even what Badoo decks and stuff, right? Things like hammers are good, right? If you're kind of just making your opponent's life kind of miserable, play some hammers and make them even more miserable, right? That's kind of how that goes. Look, Giovanni's Charisma with the energy acceleration. Yeah, it's a card you should definitely keep in mind, is what I'd say, right? For like, did you say like Dragapult, where you need to get two energies attached? There's some different ways to do it, but this is one
yeah,
way to
and
do it.
against Dragapult,
Yeah, so
like both sides of it.
so you're gonna play what, one or two copies, not more than that, I don't think. So are you gonna get it in hand when you need it? Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's a card that searched it out.
What, TGIDX or
No, no, there's the Persian from 151.
okay? What does it do?
It says with its ability Rocket Call, once during your turn, you may search your deck for Giovanni's Charisma and put it into your hand.
Okay. All right. So All right, I have.
which is bad. Like it's a stage one. It's not really good, but it's funny
All
and
right,
it
it seems like
exists.
a challenge. I think I need to try to build the deck using those two cards. But yeah, it can be good.
I think there's another card that interacts if you're going down that route. There's the oh yeah, Rhydon with Charismatic Drill, which says for fighting colorless on a stage one, you do 40, but you do 180 if you play Giovanni's Charisma. So could do that. That
Uh,
seems really bad, but you can
it does.
do that.
I mean, the one downside, another downside to Guillaume's charisma is you have to have the energy in hand, right, before you can play it. So your opponent has to have oblige you by attaching energy, which they're going to do a lot. But anyway, right? So that's not the biggest issue. You also have to have the energy in hand. And of course you use your supporter for the turn. So I see where it has some value. I'm not sure how often it's going to give you enough value. I guess is where I'm at with it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think this card can be bad and probably it might not see you play like ever again, but it could be insane as well. So it's end up somewhere in the middle here.
Yeah. All right, look, we've hit our list. I'm just gonna say briefly my closing thought here, and you can take us out. Part of the idea for me behind talking about these cards is just to give ideas out there. Right? These are cards that we don't play a lot necessarily, and other people don't play a lot. So these are just ideas. These are cards to keep in mind. We should keep them. I think to me, we should remember these cards a little more. Some of these cards belong in certain decks more often than they get played. Right? We get narrowed down. So just try to open things up, play a little more cards that make things more interesting. It just makes things more fun for all around. That's kind of my thought.
Yeah, I think they're cool. I'm trying to think if there are any that are like worth mentioning that I forgot so far. I'm gonna actually take a quick look at all the supporters in the game. There's some like weird ones that aren't really worth mentioning. Um, and there's like just a lot of weird ones like Time is just like super weird, or Billy and Onair is also really weird. I saw someone playing Kofu the other day. It was in Tyranitar. I don't think Kofu was very good. They won, I think. Um, I'm trying to think if there are any supporters at C play that we didn't mention. Not really. Erica's Invitation is one, but overall supporters are obviously a really big part of the game, and they're pretty fun. And there's a lot of them, and there are always more being printed. And there's a lot of things to do with them. And the best ones are the best ones, and should probably be played the most. But still are some other cool ones. But we hope you enjoy. Consider liking, subscribing, checking us out again on our YouTube channels, 10 Types and Icon Fossil. Comment down below your thoughts on what you would say the best tier 2 supporters are, and if any of the tier 2 supporters are better than the tier 1s that we listed at the beginning. But we hope you enjoyed, and we're excited to see you in the next episode.
Take care.